Well, Lightfall is wrapping up and the final shape releases this week, so it's time to take a look back over the last 15 months or so at Lightfall, the seasons, the highlights, and also crucially, the lowlights as well. Well, if you enjoyed this video, then consider subscribing for more Destiny 2 content, plus also stick around until the end of the video, where I'm going to be talking about some exclusive channel member benefits. Okay, without further delay, let's dive into Destiny 2 Lightfall, and let's start off with the campaign. So, I don't really think there was much wrong mechanically with the campaign. Strand was dished out at a faster pace when compared to Stasis in Beyond Light, however, still more slowly than fans would have liked. You got Strand for parts of the campaign, but you had to wait until post-campaign to unlock all the fragments and the aspects, and if you play all three characters, well, this was an absolute pain. Normal and legendary campaigns were really good, as always, plus we had the addition of the Tormentors as well, which to this day scare the hell out of me when they arrive. Story-wise, the campaign was not good. We went off to Neomuna, met the Cloud Striders, Osiris was out of character and whinging for much of the campaign. Meanwhile, the Vanguard of Zavala, Ikora and everyone else was watching as the Traveller somewhat faced off against the Witness and the Darkness Fleet. Callus stole the show in all the cutscenes and the Witness failed to provide the terror that a Destiny 2 enemy should. The whole concept of the Veil was introduced, which was then provided even more context in the seasons following, but ultimately I don't really think that fixed the story. Overall, I'm going to give the campaign, the story, a 4 out of 10. Next up we've got the seasons. So seasons in Lightfall were mixed. The first season that launched with Bungie killing off Amanda Holiday in a story high point. The season attached to the launch always seems to struggle, and to be honest, this one was no different. Season of the Deep introduced fishing into the game in a surprise move, plus also one of the hardest exotic missions I can remember. Next up we had Season of the Witch, and that is where things started to get good again, with a great story of Eris becoming a hive god. And then we had Season of the Wish, capped off the year with a really good season, albeit a very long one due to the delay in Lightfall. Bungie did go on to add Into the Light, which was a mini season's worth of content, but we're going to get into all of that later on. Overall, I'd give these seasons a 7 out of 10. Next up, we got some of the loot highlights. The loot over the past year, it's been pretty strong, mainly influenced by the release of Strand. Some of the highlights for me include Rufus's Fury from the Root of Nightmares raid, the Indebted Kindness from the Warlord's Ruin dungeon, and the Ross Arago 4, which highlighted the auto rifle meta around mid-year. Round Robin was a very sought after hand cannon. You could find that one on Neomuna. That was at the start of the year, and Quicksilver Storm dominated PvE. Solar became super strong over the course of Lightfall, and that meant solar weapons jumped up the charts, including old favourites like Sunshot, Zoli's Bane, Fixed Odds. There was a new one in the heliocentric QSC, and also the ever-reliable Callus mini-tool with Incandescent. And overall, I would give the loot a 7 out of 10. Next up, we got some of the activities. So the Coil stood out to me this year, which is from Season of the Wish. That struck a very good balance between loot and activity variety, plus also challenge as well. Season of the Wish had some good activities, which were a throwback to the old Court of Oryx days. And it is also worth shouting out fishing as an activity in Destiny. I'd never thought I would see the day when fishing was added, but it was good for a brief period, and also very different as well. Overall, I'd give the activities about a 6 out of 10. Next up, we got the raid and the dungeons. So we had a good variety of raids and dungeons in the year of Lightfall. The Root of Nightmares was dismissed as being too easy by the community, although I thought the Planets encounter was one of the best they've done. So the reaction to the easy label of the Root of Nightmares was Crota's End coming back in Season of the Witch. Crota ended up being a meme in Destiny 1 for being a glorified strike. However, Crota came back for revenge this time, being a really tough Day 1 raid. Then we had Ghosts of the Deep. That was a dungeon in Season of the Deep, and that drew a lot of criticism for being too long, with lots of underwater sections, which is essentially slowed down your Guardian. Plus also the boss health on the final boss wasn't fun at all, even though it had some of the best storytelling content in a Destiny 2 dungeon to date. So on the other end of the spectrum, we had Warlord's Ruin, the dungeon in Season of the Wish. They introduced a new weapon archetype with the rocket-powered sidearm, the Indebted Kindness. And for the raids and dungeons, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Next up we had exotic missions, so we had a couple of exotic missions with the addition of Lightfall, including the Variable and the hunt for the Vexcalibur, all the way back in the first season there. Starcross was introduced in Season of the Wish for Wishkeeper, the Strand exotic bow, and I would say the latter was the better of the two missions. Wicked Implement, the Stasis exotic scout rifle, was introduced with an exotic version of Deep Dives, which is one of the tougher exotic missions that we've seen, although strictly not really an exotic mission. And overall, I'm going to give the exotic missions a 6 out of 10. Next up, we got one of the highlights for me of the year. This is the crafting. So there was a bug introduced into Destiny 2 where you could craft perks from weapons on both Legendary and Exotic onto other weapons that shouldn't have these perks. So a good example of this was being able to craft shotgun damage output onto an auto rifle, which meant the Amit AR2 became super popular for a weekend. And this bug was found right before Trials of Osiris, and everyone thought Trials was going to be cancelled, and actually Bungie might even roll Destiny 2 back. But Bungie just ran with it and allowed people to craft some crazy weapons and also get through some content. So this meant melting Crota with juiced up auto rifles, running through Grandmaster content like they were normal strikes. It was an amazing weekend, and it was great to see Bungie embracing it and also providing good feedback and communication to the community and then fixing in the background not too long after. So essentially they allowed us to have some fun. We got to keep all of the loot, and I think it went down as probably the most memorable bug in Destiny 2 history. And overall with the crafting, I'm going to give that a 10 out of 10. So with the highs of the crafting, then we've got the lows. So we've got layoffs and player decline. So we can't really do a review of Destiny 2 Lightfall without mentioning the troubles Bungie's had over the last 12 months. Largely due to a lackluster DLC Lightfall itself, player counts dropped off a cliff, which led to Bungie missing their revenue projections by a reported 45%. And we shouldn't forget that Lightfall launched in such dramatic fashion. It was the highest player count Destiny 2 had seen for some time, and then players just absolutely dropped off. This led to some public criticism from Sony and Bungie laying off a bunch of their staff. Sentiment in the community from October until about March was really poor. The final shape was delayed, meaning Season of the Wish would be hugely extended, and for a time it was hard to see how Bungie could claw this one back. And it seemed like the hawks at Sony were circling to take over at Bungie once and for all. Well, next up we've got the redeeming feature of Lightfall, and that is Into the Light. So basically up until March it was all going really badly, and then Into the Light was announced. I don't think many of us expected much from Into the Light. You know, this was going to be some filler content provided by Bungie, but we thought they were going to be heads down adding more final touches to the final shape, and that is where their focus would be. Well, it turns out Into the Light was content rich, bringing back 12 weapons into the game, introducing limited edition versions. You know, Onslaught was the newly introduced game mode similar to a Horde mode, although not quite the Horde mode that we may have wanted, but it was very close and a great addition to the game. We've seen the reintroduction of two favourite exotic missions with Whisper and 0 Hour, plus the hugely successful Pantheon game mode, the Raid Boss Rush, where we took on multiple raid bosses back to back. This was just as much content or more content than the season, and together with the hype for the final shape, it did so much to get players hyped and powered up for the final shape. So a virtual hats off to Bungie and the team for pulling this one out of the bag. It's some of the best content that we've seen in the year of Lightfall, and overall with Into the Light, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Well, overall there's a lot to enjoy in Lightfall, so it's a 7 out of 10 for me in total, but you've got Strand, you've got Onslaught, Warlord's Ruin, Crota's End, Pantheon, and some of the loot, they are definitely highlights. Lowlights, I would say, include Season of the Deep, the variable exotic mission, elements of the Root of Nightmares raid, and definitely the Lightfall campaign. You know, I think the most important thing is that we finish strong with Season of the Wish and Into the Light. I'm really looking forward to stepping into the final shape with you all in the coming days. Well, let me know in the comments what you think about Lightfall, and share some of your memories of Lightfall in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. But that is it for this review of Destiny 2 Lightfall. And as always, thank you so much for watching or for listening. Don't forget you can hit that subscribe button down below for even more Destiny 2 content here on Endgame Express. You can also like the video and share the video too. That would really help me out here on the channel. Well, thanks again. We've only got one more sleep until the final shape. I'll see you very soon. Well, thank you for watching that video, and today I'd like to talk about Endgame Express Backstage, the home of exclusive content for fans of Endgame Express. To join, simply join up through Patreon or the YouTube membership. You get early access and exclusive content, shout-outs in the videos, access to live streams, plus also access to our exclusive Endgame Express Backstage community Discord. Well, here's some more information about the tiers. So in Tier 1, that is $2.99 a month, you get access to our community Discord and also early access to content. In Tier 2, that is $4.99 and you get shoutouts in the credits of videos, and also you get access to community polls and help shape the content. For Tier 3, that is $8.99 and you'll get access to exclusive community videos and also get access to exclusive live streams as well. Well, the core content on Endgame Express is always going to be free, but if you want to go above and beyond and support Endgame Express, then all you need to do is get access to Endgame Express Backstage today through Patreon or YouTube membership. You know, Endgame Express is a one-man band right now, but I would love to expand into more games, podcasts, more channels, but to do that, I'm going to need your help to make this sustainable. And in return, I offer you some exclusive benefits and backstage-only content. Well, if you enjoy Endgame Express, then consider Endgame Express Backstage today. You can hit that membership button right down below, or you can find us on the Patreon links, and you'll find those links in the description. Well, thank you for listening, and thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you very soon.